What if joy was never meant to be owned? What if the very act of holding it too tightly is the reason it slips away? William Blake once wrote, "He who binds to himself a joy does the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise." It is a truth that feels both tender and merciless, a reminder that joy is not a possession, but a visitation. It comes like a bird to rest on the branch of your life, and the moment you try to close your hands around it, you crush the very thing you love. We live in a world obsessed with permanence. We photograph sunsets, not to remember them, but to resist their passing. We cling to relationships, moments, and feelings as if our grip could stop the turning of the earth. But joy is not a stone to be kept in a pocket. It is a breeze that must be felt as it moves through you. Its beauty is inseparable from its impermanence. Think of the morning dew. It glistens in the first light, each droplet a tiny universe of reflection. But the sun rises and the dew vanishes, not because it has been stolen, but because it has fulfilled its purpose. Joy is like that. It appears, it blesses, it dissolves. To demand that it stay is to misunderstand its nature. The paradox is that the more we try to hold joy, the more it withers. Like a butterfly pinned under blast, it may remain in form, but its life is gone. The living essence of joy is movement, the flutter, the flight, the dance. It is not meant to be caged, for its song is born of freedom. And yet our hearts resist this truth. We fear that if we let joy go, it will never return. We imagine that release is the same as loss. But joy is not a rare guest that must be begged to stay. It is a current that flows through the open spaces of our being. When we loosen our grip, we do not lose it. We make room for it to return, again and again, in new and unexpected forms. Blake's image of eternity's sunrise is not about a single, unending moment of happiness. It is about living in a state of openness, where each joy is greeted and released without fear. It is about trusting that the sunrise will come not once, but every day in countless ways. In the laughter of a friend, in the scent of rain on dry earth, in the quiet relief of forgiveness. To kiss the joy as it flies is to bless it without binding it. It is to say, "I see you, I love you, and I will not hold you prisoner." It is to understand that joy's freedom is also your own. For when you stop trying to keep it, you are no longer its jailer, you are its companion. But this is not easy. It requires a kind of courage that feels like surrender. It asks us to stand in the presence of beauty without trying to own it, to love without demanding guarantees, to live without clinging to the past or bargaining with the future. It asks us to trust the rhythm of arrival and departure, to see the grace in both. Perhaps the real question is not how to keep joy, but how to be the kind of space where joy feels free to land. And if that is true, then the art of living is not in holding on, but in letting go with reverence. But how do we learn to release what we love without feeling the hollow ache of loss? How do we open our hands without closing our hearts? We ended before with a question. How do we open our hands without closing our hearts? This is the delicate balance, to love fully without fastening chains, to welcome joy without demanding its stay. It is not a skill the mind learns through logic, but a way of being the heart remembers when it grows quiet enough. The open hand is not indifferent. It does not push away what comes, nor does it clutch in fear of loss. It simply receives, and in receiving, it allows. Like the shore that greets each wave without trying to hold the water, It knows that beauty is born in the rhythm of arrival and departure. The tide is not less precious because it retreats. It is precious because it returns again and again in forms both familiar and new. In truth, what we call holding on is often an attempt to freeze time. We want the moment to remain exactly as it is, forgetting that its life depends on its movement. A melody cannot be kept by holding a single note. It must flow, or it ceases to be music. So it is with joy. It is a living sequence, not a static possession. To interrupt its motion is to silence its song. The sages of many traditions have spoken of this. The Taoist masters likened it to water, soft, yielding, yet unstoppable in its flow. It nourishes all things without clinging to them. It moves on, not because it is careless, but because its nature is to move. When we align ourselves with this current, we discover that letting go is not a loss, but a participation in the greater dance of life. And yet, the mind resists. It whispers that release is abandonment, that if we do not hold tightly, joy will vanish forever. But joy is not a fragile flame that dies when unintended. It is the sunrise itself, inevitable in its return. It may disappear from view, but it is always on its way back, carried by the turning of the world. To live with an open hand is to trust this turning. It is to understand that joy is not a rare treasure hidden in the folds of fate, but a constant presence that changes its face. Sometimes it comes as laughter shared with a friend, sometimes as the quiet relief of solitude, sometimes as the bittersweet ache of remembering someone you love. Each form is temporary, but the source is eternal. This is why Blake's image of eternity's sunrise is so powerful. It is not a single unending moment of bliss, but the recognition that every moment, even those tinged with sorrow, is part of the same eternal light. The sunrise is not diminished because night follows, it is made more radiant by the contrast. In the same way, joy is not lessened by its passing. It is deepened by the knowledge that it will come again in ways we cannot predict. The open hand is also the open heart. It does not guard itself against the pain of impermanence, because it understands that pain is the shadow cast by love. To avoid one is to forfeit the other. And so it stands undefended, willing to be pierced by beauty, willing to be changed by what it cannot keep. There is a quiet strength in this posture. It is not the strength of control, but the strength of trust. It trusts that life knows how to give and take in perfect measure, that nothing truly meant for us can be lost, and nothing not meant for us can be forced to stay. It trusts that the same wind that carries joy away will carry it back, perhaps in a different form, but with the same essence. And so the art of the open hand is not a technique to master, but a way of seeing. It is the recognition that joy is not a possession, but a companion, one that walks beside us for a while, then takes another path, only to meet us again further along the road. It is the willingness to wave as it departs, knowing that the horizon is not an ending, but a curve in the journey. But if joy is always returning, always changing its form, then what is it that remains constant beneath all these appearances? What is the source from which every winged moment takes flight and to which it always returns? Beneath all the shifting forms, beneath the laughter that fades and the tears that dry, there is something that does not move. It is not a thing we can point to, nor a place we can reach. It is the stillness from which every winged moment takes flight, and to which it always returns. This stillness is not the absence of life, but its hidden root, the silent soil from which the seasons of our joy and sorrow grow. When we look closely, we see that joy is not an object passing through our hands, but a movement of the same life that breathes us. It is not out there, visiting us from afar. It is the very texture of being itself, shimmering in countless disguises. The bird that sings at dawn, the warmth of a friend's gaze, the sudden memory that stirs the heart, all are ripples on the same boundless sea. To cling to one ripple is to forget the ocean. We imagine that if we could hold it still, we would preserve its beauty. But beauty is not in the frozen shape, it is in the living dance. The wave is beautiful because it rises and falls, because it is never the same twice. And so it is with joy. Its freedom is its essence. To bind it is to strip it of the very life we love. This is why Blake's vision of kissing the joy as it flies is not a call to resignation, but to intimacy. A kiss is not ownership, it is a meeting in full presence, knowing it will end, yet giving oneself entirely to the moment. In that surrender, we touch something eternal, not because the moment lasts forever, but because we are awake within it. The paradox is that the more we release, the more deeply we can receive. When the hand is open, it can feel the weight and warmth of what it holds without crushing it. When the heart is unguarded, it can be pierced by beauty without fearing the wound. This is the freedom of the soul, to let life flow through without damming its current, to trust that nothing real can be lost. And perhaps this is the quiet truth hidden in all our seeking. Joy is not a rare visitor to be trapped, but the very air we breathe when we stop trying to possess it. It is the sunrise that keeps returning, not because we demand it, but because it is its nature to rise. Even in the longest night, it is already on its way. So we stand here, between the coming and going, between the first light and the fading glow, learning to love without holding, to see without grasping, to live without enclosing life in our fists. We learn to greet each joy as a bird alighting on our shoulder, to feel its weight, its warmth, its song, and then to watch it lift again into the open sky, knowing that the sky itself is never empty. And in that knowing, we are no longer merely witnesses to joy's flight, we are part of the same wind that carries it. We are the horizon it disappears into, and the dawn from which it emerges. We are not separate from the sunrise. We are its unfolding.